7:46, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and my very special guest on the line is Chief Richard Currie. He said that he never rejected any of my invitations, but here we are. We're talking to him this morning, and we're talking about issues relating to African people, to Taino people. We identify proudly in this space, and you know that as Taino. And that conversation is, I understand exactly where Chief Richard Currie is coming from when he talks about the African Taino connection. So that is well understood, and that is also well accepted in this space, Chief. I'm going to leave some of that for when I come up to Accompong, which we hope to do very shortly, and have 4 hours, because we only have 1 hour this morning. Less than half an hour left. So what I want to do now is to go to some of what I hear you talking about on the social media, and just before that to say, help us to understand what happened in Moortown. Because as I said to the colonel of Moortown, that it just looking from the outside, as someone who has covered Maroon issues all of my life, it seemed that there was a situation of the hands of Jacob and the voice of Esau, or something to that effect. It seems as if you were, and this is what we got, you were interfering. You had gone into Moortown. The colonel himself said that you had come into Moortown and that you were interfering in Moortown politics, for want of a better word.
So traditionally, Kabu, let me help explain this to the wider audience, that Maroon business has always been Maroon business, and it's not unusual that Maroons support other Maroons in whatever it is that is Maroon affairs. Now, Hope, right? Mm-hmm. Young Hope, who is a strong, culturally, I can't find words to describe her. She embodies the energy that we look for in our culture today. Hope asked me to give her some support in visiting Moortown and a couple of her districts. On my way to Moortown, I reached out to Colonel Sterling. I called him to let him know I was on my way to Moortown. He said he was up in the hill. He's not at his home, but if he's down in time, then he would let me know, right? Colonel Sterling can validate that. Mm-hmm. I went into Moortown. I went into 2 districts with Young Hope, right? Just to talk to people, because from the side of Moortown, I've gotten many requests. Chief, we need to see you. We need to see you. We like what you're doing. We need to see you. Right? Now, in what I'm doing in defending Cockpit Country, and what we, the Maroons of Trelawney Town Valley in our sacred lands, the Windward Maroons support this. Mm-hmm. The fact is... But
Richard, before you go further, don't put yourself in... Mm-hmm. in Colonel Sterling's shoes and just flip everything that you just said. Isn't that a serious level of interference?
No, but this is prior to everything regarding what you're hearing about police stopping me going into Moortown, which of course I was not. I was actually home in Accompong when I saw that article being published. Mm-hmm. What you just said to me happened weeks before. The point is, Kabu, all protocols were observed. The fact is, people are not privy to these things. They hear what is being
What is the relationship? What's the relationship between you and Colonel Sterling now?
Let me tell you, there is a strain on the relationship between the Windward and the Leeward Maroons, owing to the fact that a meeting which was convened in February by the Prime Minister involved the members of the Windward Maroon leadership. And it was only 4 days before that we together sat on a call for over 2.5 hours, and we were all committed. We all took the promise to each other that we would spend a week to put together a document that we would table in front of the Prime Minister in the meeting that was being proposed. A night before, 4 days after that meeting, I got a call saying that, this is from Colonel Sterling, that they've decided to go to that meeting. So I'm saying, I'm sorry, I think I missed something. What did you say? He said, we're going to the meeting tomorrow. I say, I'm sorry, Colonel Sterling, I think we need to call an emergency meeting to discuss this, which we did. On that call, I sat and listened to everyone on that call, which was not only the chiefs, the colonels of the Maroons and their districts. It involved the Mama G, it involved Kalan, who, you know, it's something that we also need to talk about. And it included Marcus Goff, who is a legal-minded and by profession individual who is of the Maroon community. On this call, I listened to everyone try to provide a reason why they would be going to the meeting tomorrow, breaking our word, having not met in over 5 years, deciding on that one call that this was the unity we wanted to move forward, to break that within 4 days.
I understand that was troublesome.
Not only did this meeting take place, I did not receive an official breakdown of this meeting and the outcome of this meeting until 6 months later.
All right.
Actually, 5 months later.
And this is where I was going with this now, because...
And on top of that, Kabu, just finishing, 2 weeks after that meeting, mining began in Cockpit Country.
What do you mean?
Okay. All right. I hope everyone pays attention to what is happening in our great land.
All right. So hold that, because I want to come back to the mining. Because you talk about the unity, you talk about the division between the Leeward and the Windward Maroons, and obviously, just hearing you just now, I can still hear the frustration, if not anger, about that whole situation. Do you think you are unreasonable, though, to expect that if the Prime Minister asked them for a meeting, that they would not have gone to a meeting considering all that was happening? And are you able at this point, which is the same question I asked Colonel Sterling when he was in the studio a few months ago, to draw a line under that and to be a unifying force, considering the work that you all have to do, that we all have to do, and that this is two brothers fighting, only strangers can benefit?
The fact is, Kabu, we have been fighting to create unity amongst Maroon communities, not just now. It's just now being televised. Let's put it that way.
But it never so bad, Chief Currie, because I mean, me always not a big light. This is like the worst I've seen it.
Let me tell you why.
Yes.
Because it was under control. If
all
you get
right.
what I'm saying.
So you're saying
it was under control.
Okay.
So let me
listen. All right. Listen. There's always.
I don't like how you love cut me when I make my point. Them in a Kabu. You're not going to do me this.
All right. Go ahead, Chief Currie. Go ahead.
I'm just trying to explain to you something that is very important for the world to understand.
Go ahead.
That there is let me tell you something. When the police stopped Buju Banton from going over into Moortown to exercise his right, over 30 odd police were there with masks, rifles, barricades, coming out of the bush, coming out of the hills. You know what they said? This is not a SOE, this is not a state of emergency, but we're dominating this space today. We control Yasso, Onogobaka, Accompong. We control Yasso.
But listen, this is a question may I ask you.
This is a national security issue. That was the word of the commander. So Kabu, explain that to me. Why is the external hand so heavily involved in maintaining this or creating this unity amongst the Maroon people? Think about that.
All right. If you remember the very first interview I did with you, that question came up and I was asking it. And you agreed with me when I asked the question. It was in Accompong. I had gone to Accompong and we were broadcasting live. It was January 6th before the COVID. And when you came up to me, this is what I was asking Colonel Williams, I think it was at the time. What is happening here? Why is it that every time I come to Accompong on a January 6th to do this OB, that every year I see the external hand, as you call it, more and more involved in the Maroon communities? What is happening here? When you came up on the scene, and we have that recorded, you pointed to the very same thing. So I
kept the 6th of January without external support this year.
Okay.
The first that Maroons can recall for the longest time.
So why do you think it happened all this while? Because it's a question you asked me, but I don't have the answer.
Let me tell you why. It's the roles that were being played by leadership prior to my arrival wouldn't have been in the best interest of the people. Therefore, the culture was dying. The people were dying with the information. Our kids were leaving. It was a gentrification of the Maroon territories. We were given no roads, we're given no water. Yet I could find an account that wasn't handed over to me with $1 million that passed through it under the former colonel and his affiliates. None of this known to the people, the good Maroon people of Accompong. Now, where do I sit in all of this, Kabu? Coming and seeing what has been happening and then the unravelings that has taken place since. And the players, Kabu, unfortunately, the players that are involved, their names I cannot say, Kabu.
All right, you have. Right. I heard you. I heard you even on the social media saying that, and I don't want you to do that in this space either.
But let's keep it within the Maroon context. Let's use the Secretariat, the Maroon Secretariat.
Mm-hmm.
I have found money is moving from our account to the Maroon Secretariat. Who is the Maroon Secretariat?
Please do not. Please do not. Please do not.
It's the same conglomerate.
Right.
There's no Y-coil.
Yeah. Please do not call any names. Please do not call any names. Okay.
Right. Now, here's my issue. The Yamaya Council of Indigenous Leaders, formerly known as the Maroon Secretariat, right, was predominantly driven by the leadership of the Maroon territories. The emergence of Y-Coil came after my first set of pronouncements regarding irregularities and the banking accounts that we would have found. Now, not only the Y-Coil, not only did the Maroon Secretariat pop up in our peripheries during our audit, but other colonels from other territories popped up in this account as well. Now, it begs the question, let me ask, Kabu, right? Mm-hmm. In looking at the activities of the Maroon Secretariat, particularly as it involved other external players, one such who's responsible for the creation of what we know as the Lumi currency, right? That, of course, very, very creative, very, sophisticated, and it's the way we ought to be thinking, but how it is done brings the question then, where do the people actually benefit and how does it fit within current day legislature?
All right.
There were all questions that were unanswered, Kabu.
All right.
But what we've uncovered were large amounts of money and very, very notorious players.
Are you suggesting, I hear notorious players, are you suggesting or saying in this space that one of the reasons why you personally as chief of Accompong, one of the reasons why you are being, for want of a better word, being attacked from so many spaces is that these are the reasons, is that there's been there's been fraud in the are you saying that there was fraud in the within the Maroon Secretariat within Accompong?
From what we can see, Kabu, to our and based on my experience, what we have found can be described as fraud.
All right, stick up in right there. No, let me just come back and ask you. In reflection, in looking back at your tenure and how you came in, and there was so much hope, and you had a lot of support. Obviously, you won your youth and so on. In looking back at those first few months, is there anything that you look back on and said, I handled this in a wrong way. I could have handled this better? Because here we are now, where it's a model that we're trying to it's like a what do call it, sinking sand, that we're trying to pull ourselves out of, but it is so messy, there's just so much to talk about. Do you take any responsibility for what has happened in terms of your own, the attacks on you, and the fact that you find even the Prime Minister being so angry with you, that you talk about the Minister of Culture, who you chided on your social media pages. Do you take any personal responsibility?
I take responsibility for holding a fiduciary duty of my people under the 1738 Treaty of Peace and Friendship. Now, what has happened, Kabu, and what has unfolded, you said that, you've made the statement in context that there is turmoil here. Mm-hmm. Now, we're being led by propaganda and media. Come to Accompong. That's why I wanted you here. Mm-hmm. My people love me. My people still hold the same promise of hope that we held 18 months ago when I came into office. The fact is, I've made them more aware, and for that, they're entirely grateful. The problem is, look at leadership before this, Kabu. We had the prior leader who has been here, Andrea Williams, who was here for over 10 years, almost 11 and a half years, I believe, right, we almost didn't have the opportunity to exercise our democratic right. The fact is, when Ferran was in office, 11 years had transpired, and not a structure that has come to the people that the people can say yes. You know, there's no water, there's no roads, yet he was so affiliated with the external entities.
Well, there was a Lumi. There was a Lumi, and there was also that building that you showed. That's a structure.
And he's now claiming it as his.
Okay. So it's not the property of Accompong.
That's my problem, Kabu, and that's the people's problem as well. We presented all this information to the town hall meeting. We asked the question of the people, where should we go, what should we do? Because I got no information from Ferran in the handing over. I got one bank book. I got the 2 expired contracts regarding the tower sites that were being rented here in Accompong, and a TRN number belonging to the Sovereign State of Accompong.
But he has also said in this space that the process when you won, that the process in terms of how you dealt with it, if I'm recalling correctly, that it was dealt with in other words, he was maligned or marginalized by you. Can you hold and let me just take a quick break and then you can respond to that. 3 minutes now after 8 o'clock. My very special guest online inside of the Africa Forum this morning is Chief Richard Currie, talking about just general issues within the public space. This is a pretty short interview. We can't cover everything here, so we're just kind of glossing over things. But I will be going to Accompong, and hopefully we can be there. If not next Sunday coming, Chief Currie, then the other Sunday. But definitely we're looking in short order to be in Accompong and to have that 4 hours of the program just dedicated to talking about some of these issues and looking at the work that you're doing in Accompong. But how do you respond to former Colonel Ferran Williams, who said that at the point of winning, and I'm not quoting him directly, I just remember having a conversation with him on air, and he said that what you did was so different from the norm. How do you respond to that?
Well, I would like to know, first of all, what he would consider the norm, because the fact is, in his handing over, nothing was done within the norm, right? I did not receive a file. I did not receive a valid contract. The bus, which was donated to the community by the Minister of Culture and Gender, he took that bus off the hill and refused to hand over that bus. I ended up having to call the minister and her assistant to get the aid for Ferran to release that bus. Now, when I look at it and I dig deep into what's been happening here in Accompong, I looked at the documents for the bus. The bus is registered in the Sovereign State of Accompong. This is prior to me, Kabu. I didn't come here preaching this, right? This is what exists in law. The fact of the matter is I'm being chastised because of what I found out that's been happening. I'm not being bought. I'm not being paid. I'm standing up for the people and for the right of not only Maroons, but the indigenous people of the land. Now let's dig deep and talk a little bit more about the Secretariat, because the Secretariat is the ground of a lot of the issues we face in the community, not only on the leeward side, but the windward side. Because the people there have spoken to me as well, Kabu.
Yeah.
Right? It's not that I'm here, pulling and responding and jumping and acting off influences and words of others. This is me responding to the people. So I take a step back.
Yeah.
I take a step back because within my own community are external influences who are keen and also destabilizing, making myself look bad, my administration look bad, and the people look bad.
Why did you remain silent for so long?
Because it is always good to listen before you talk. And I have given everyone their time to talk, Kabu, and show their hand. Many who have shown their divisive and demonic, I can't describe it in any other way, because what they're doing is committing an illegal act against God's people.
All right, but you yourself, Chief Currie, you have been, in terms of all this, the chatter that we're hearing around you, that I don't think you have responded to yet. I don't think I heard you responding to that on the social media either. That your own relationships, external relationships in terms of engagement with external individuals, that have been questioned. That relationship has been questioned by people within Accompong, people outside of Accompong, and just generally people looking on to say that those relationships are also suspect. How do you respond to that?
Well, the thing is, Kabu, as I say, I've been here 18 months. I've been here doing the work of the people. I've been nothing but open and transparent with the people. Mm-hmm. But here's what I'm telling you that's been happening. There are people also within our space. It's not new. It's nothing new. Not new under the sun. Mm-hmm. You know, back in the day, we call them black shots. We had other ways. We call them traitors. There are people operating turncoats within our communities. When we have our town hall meetings, Kabu, mm-hmm. they have their phones on. They're recording. They have someone else on the other line who's listening to state affairs and community affairs, right? When we go and have our meetings, there are people recording our meetings and sending them to people. So what ends up happening is that many of our projects, many of our missions get eaten up in propaganda and spewed in a negative light to impact what we're doing for the people. Now, at what point do we speak up?
Yeah.
Right? At what point do we get rid of the disruptive elements and draw a line?
So have you gotten rid of elements? Have you begun to do that, to get rid of disruptive elements within the community?
No. We have means and mechanisms within our constitution, right, to address issues within our communities. Now, this is the will of the people who have chosen to be governed.
What is the situation with Daniel? What's the situation with Daniel Bosra? Because you've addressed some of that on your social media, but obviously this is out there. It's in the news. It's in the spaces, and in your social media posts, as you said, disruptive element. You identified him as being a disruptive element within the community. What's the situation? What can you tell us about that relationship that seems to have devolved into something terrible?
Yeah, let me say this to you first and foremost, and to the wider Jamaica. No one put their hand on Daniel, which caused him harm. He fell and dislocated his arm, and we have video of him. And we have video of him making that declaration at the police station as well. So that information is here and available. So let me get that out first and foremost.
You're saying that he was not beaten, he was not attacked, that they...
Absolutely not. Never. The reason men went to Dane that morning was because of threats that came in the night before. Stemming death threats, Kabu, death threats that came in the night before from persons affiliated him. That's saying that there will be men flooding Accompong, right, to create tyranny because of the situation that was there.
Pause there, Chief. Pause, Chief.
We had addressed it.
Pause a minute.
We had addressed it.
Pause a minute.
The council.
Hold on there, because how we outside looking in, how we are being made to understand this from the reports coming in from many different spaces, is that Daniel Bosra got death threats, but those death threats most likely came from your camp. You're saying no?
That is 100% incorrect. No, let me tell you where this stemmed from, because the officers came into Accompong on the night of a report of a death threat. Now, it was surprising that the claim of the threat was being directed at myself and persons affiliated with me. So, Kabu, I had a very long conversation with the deputy superintendent from Black River, who came here accompanied by the sergeant from Black River and another private investigator. Now, having left, we expressed to them the situation that was happening and unfolding in Accompong as it relates to Daniel and his conduct as a person residing in the territory. Because Daniel only came here maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and he hasn't been established within the community. So the fact of the matter is, issues with Daniel and leadership in this community stems far back as former Colonel Williams, who on many occasions had sent police within the territory to get Daniel out. There have been men in the community who have chased him around to actually harm him, and we were the ones who actually protected him in those times. Now, please remember, Daniel was a candidate in the last election.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't nominated on the day, so then never entered on the ballots.
Mm-hmm.
Now, since...
And that's the same election in which you won, just so our listeners understand.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So to clear the air with that, Kabu, I have offered 5 of the 6 opponents in that election as stays within my council, Daniel being none less. And I gave him an opportunity to actually assist with revamping the programming on Abeng radio, which we have here in Accompong. Daniel's a man that likes to talk, and he's very intelligent.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what? There's an issue when it comes to them disrupting and turning away the good people who want to assist our communities. Daniel and his syndicate wanted specific roles and positions within my council, and because we did not give them those positions, and I'm talking his affiliates of Accompong News, I'm talking Duncan Buchanan, Dennis Foster, David Holmes, these guys wanted the roles of Secretary of State, Minister of Information, and none of them live here. The fact is, Daniel has been a puppet for many of those who I mentioned earlier are the external influences who have an agenda contrary to the benefit of the people. Now the people have spoken and they took a decision that and I want the wider Jamaica to understand that as an example, this is how crime is managed. When you find situations that continue to be tumultuous, people that continue to be disruptive to the point that you've now deprived the good people of the dignity of having a better life, it becomes very, very personal. He ran away someone who wanted to bring us water, Kabu. We've been here for 60 years since independence of Jamaica. We still don't have running water.
Well, I saw that someone...
40% of fresh water supply. How does it make sense? It make sense.
So I think, I don't know if it was you who posted that someone who wanted to give the water supply. This is a white woman. She sounded very unsure of herself. I listened closely. I have no faith in her. I don't know. I don't know her. I don't know her. It's just that the way she presented herself, it sounded very, very suspect. I do not know what to make of it all, but I'm not the only one who watched it. So a lot of people would have seen this, and I'm not quite sure what people think.
Kabu, listen this.
Yeah.
Let me tell you this, Kabu. You know what annoys me some of the time when I hear these kind of racist arguments? Let me tell you what I don't like with it.
What do you call racist argument?
When you say black people have not helped us.
No. Hold a sec. Hang on. No. Hold a sec. No, Mr. Currie. No, Chief Currie. No.
You said a white woman. Let me address.
How come identifying someone by them race?
Our black brothers.
No. You have said something. No, Chief Currie.
Listen to
Back
me,
up a little, man. Back up.
Let me finish.
You are a black man. Currie. Chief Currie.
A woman who was perturbed.
You are a black man. You are. Didn't I say ask you? We started out by talking about why not identify yourself as an African. Why didn't you call me racist then? No, but why didn't you call me racist then? Because we started out...
I didn't call you racist. I said the racist remarks.
Why didn't you say that my remarks regarding you as an African...
Because you're seeing color first. So because of that, you're saying it's disingenuous.
No. I am a journalist.
The lady was traumatized because she did not come here for that. She did not come here. I was not there. I don't know what they did to her. I don't know if anyone physically touched or assaulted her, but she came back to me crying, Kabu.
And I understand that. My listeners...
You to be saying that she's disingenuous.
No, I didn't use the word disingenuous. I did not say that. Do you want a copy of the program when I'm through? I did not say that.
Yes, Kabu.
Yes, I did not say that. No, you... Chief Currie, hang on. Hold your temper. Chief Currie, hold your temper. Hold your temper. Let me take a quick break because we are on the break, and just take a deep breath because I said nothing of the sort.
Thank you.
All right, 17 minutes after 8 o'clock, you're inside of the Africa Forum. It is Running Africa, and my very special guest online is Chief Richard Currie, Chief of the Accompong Maroons. And Chief Currie, we only have about 10 minutes left. But I do promise to take up that invitation and to come up into Accompong and have the wider conversation. But I think we really do need to clear up this point, because here we are having a conversation. This conversation, even the idea of what the, when we talk about Maroonage, when we talk about the colonial history, when we talk about the diary of Thistlewood and so on, which you brought to the space, we have been talking about race all morning. Now, when we talk about the Tainos, so within the context of a discussion, here I have my listeners who don't necessarily know what we're talking about. And this is a program that is really very opinionated, it is true, but we are also very factual. So my listeners must know that the person you reference is a Caucasian. If I'd said Caucasian, maybe it wouldn't sound so to you, but this is the thing. So I identify her, and then I said to you that she was very hesitant in the way that she was putting this forward. And she herself said that in the clip. And because of that, it impacted her credibility. She must know this. But go ahead. You're saying that this is the person who she came to the space to facilitate water, portable water within Accompong, but that she was discouraged?
She was attacked verbally, right? She was challenged on many things she really had no information or background on. And Basra was essentially slandering me, the name of my administration, and works that we've been doing for the people. Now bear in mind, Kabu, nothing that Basra has been putting up on his social. Do you know how many requests I've gotten from people needing assistance to get money back from this guy who was being...
No, hold on. We can't do that here.
I am doing it here, Kabu.
No, this is because a commercial radio station and I do not own it.
In such a way when we're talking facts here, Kabu.
No, listen. So you can...
I won't say anything I cannot substantiate.
All right. So but still, I have a responsibility to Irie FM.
I appreciate that.
Right?
So let's move forward.
Yes.
Let's move forward. The fact is, there are many issues below the surface of what people may see in the public's eye and what is being promoted in the media, which is why for some of the times, Kabu, I choose to remain silent and not fuel that fire. You know, sometimes, as I said, it's better to hold your mouth. It's a keep by your mouth.
Yes. But you're also suing the government. How is that going?
So we have a case in front of the Supreme Court regarding Cockpit Country and mining in Cockpit Country. The fact of the matter is, Kabu, we're having reached a 60-year mark in Jamaica, wanting to become a republic. There are matters of significant importance that haven't been dealt with that must now be addressed. And what has really pushed the ball would have been the mining in Cockpit Country, which, as you know, is Maroon land.
All right, and
we tried on several occasions to engage in dialogue with the government. We haven't had the opportunity to do so.
You have made a public plea to the Prime Minister. Has he responded? Because I saw that.
I have. Yeah, I've yet to receive a response. So just to be clear, that we've made at least 4 or 5 attempts to get in touch with the Prime Minister, maybe 3 separate attempts to get in touch with the Governor General, and perhaps 2 attempts to get in touch with other members of the government and affiliated institutions.
What about the Minister?
All have been unsuccessful.
What about the Minister of Culture, Bamsey Grange?
I've spoken to the Minister twice on the phone, and the only 2 times we would have spoken would have been upon incidents, or what would have been reported as incidents in Accompong. I haven't heard from her in over 7 months.
And I think a few months ago, probably a year, I'm not quite sure, that the Prime Minister had said that funding he had withdrawn, I think, or directed funding away from Accompong, funding going through government agencies. What's the situation with that now?
That to me was a discriminatory remark. And for us, the Maroons, and I'm sure the listeners right across Jamaica, not only are we now depriving a people of their identity, but you're now depriving them of their livelihoods by cutting off what you call aid, when to be factual, there's a lot of money that is actually being collected, utilizing the good name and the state of the Maroons and indigenous people on this land. So let's not be two-tongued in what we're saying.
All right, Chief Currie, I know that I've interrupted you many times throughout this interview. You have pointed it out, but it's a short time. And what I want to do is, in the last 3 minutes that we have, just use that 3 minutes to say what it is that you thought we might have missed this morning, and you needed that out.
Dialogue and clarity for the people, because the Maroons have a legally standing agreement, legally binding, legally standing agreement that ought to be honored, and it becomes that much more imperative that we sit down with the government of Jamaica that we can move forward, because we do have ownership and possessory rights to land, and this informal agreement that we have isn't working anymore, and it's not benefiting the people. It's not doing anything for us. Clearly, we're asking for dialogue. We're not getting the conversations. There are meetings that are being held with Maroon leadership on the premise that it excludes me as a direct prerequisite, and for me and the Maroon people here in Accompong, who have done a lot in servitude and who have done a lot in bearing the strife and the struggles, we still are being marginalized, we still are being incriminated, we're still being slandered, and we're still being discriminated against. And it's very clear to us that Jamaica as a state, who is a signatory to the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, to date has not ratified and put into legislature any form of tangible recognition or rights and privileges of indigenous people. But let's take it a step deeper. We, the Maroons, cannot be forcibly assimilated into a situation that subjugates or deprives us of our treaty and our treaty rights and our inalienable rights. And the thing is, Kabu, we have no assurance that moving forward in the current agreement, as with Jamaica in this republic status, we are not guaranteed that in another 30 to 35 years' time, the need for resources will push the borders of Cockpit Country to again be redefined and be smaller. What
is your position? Sorry to interrupt. What is your position on mining? Because at the Mwalimu Marcus Mosiah Garvey event, Motorburg and myself hosting, Timothy McPherson came in, Colonel Sterling came in, but it seemed to me as if Timothy McPherson was saying that they are on the table. This is something that Maroons want to do, or at least some Maroons, which is to be in charge of mining.
Who said that?
I got Timothy McPherson. This is what he was, because I had a conversation with them during that event, and he suggested that instead of government, mining in the way that they're mining, that this might be something that Maroon communities would be in charge of, and that would be in charge of mining themselves. But what are your views on mining within the Cockpit Country?
So I'm sure that was the plot behind the backing of the Looney, to utilize the resources of Cockpit Country to secure this currency. Now, the problem, as I said, Kabu, and we haven't touched on that as much as we ought to, and I'd love to come back to really dig deep into that and provide you with more context. But the situation is this, that mining destroys the water table, Kabu. Did you not see what happened with the recovery? Right? Where are the guarantees? How does a $170 million bond restore livelihoods of the thousands of people who have been impacted? Let's not talk about the long term, which we are yet to see, and they're treating this as a business expense. This is not a business expense.
It is a topic that we cover widely on this program, and we led marches, and we've been into the Cockpit Country. As a matter of fact, when you met me in Accompong, I was there for one reason. I told the listeners I was there for two reasons actually. One was to say the Maroons must support those of us who were saying no mining in the Cockpit Country, and secondly, the Maroons must tell us what will be done regarding having a dialogue about some of the issues that causing the ongoing conflict and disunity between those who identify as in Maroon communities. So yes, we have done this. We have done this, Chief Currie. What I want to say finally is that I accept your invitation to be there, and we're looking at next week Sunday to continue the conversation. Go ahead, my brother.
Awesome. So thank you for that, Kabu, and I look forward to having you. We look forward to having you here. The situation is, right now, as I say, Kabu, we have to be looking at everything that is in front of us. The agreements that do not suit us, the people who have been operating here, who had no interest for the people, no respect for the people, right? We've seen so much happening out there in the name of Accompong, people benefiting in the name of Accompong, people utilizing indigenous people and Accompong to acquire funding, to acquire grants, to acquire all these monies that are being pumped and used into other districts, other territories, and nothing at all is put to the people in the good spaces of Cockpit Country. We demand better, and we are saying that dialogue is needed, because if we cannot sit down as leaders and have constructive and amicable resolutions to long-standing issues, you suggested the first thing, having dialogue to clear back a lot of the back issues. Yes, Kabu, we need to have that. But I'm saying at this juncture, at this moment in time, with the geopolitical interests in Cockpit Country, we're talking United States, Russia, China. We're talking about all these people wanting the lands in and around Cockpit Country. We're telling everyone, look deeper into what is happening within our country. Look deeper into what is happening within the Maroon territories. And you will see for yourself the answers. They will reveal themselves.
All right.
So thank you for having me.
We're taking a very deep look. Thank you so much for coming on. And hopefully we have, I think our managing director has already signed off on this. So hopefully we'll be there next week, Sunday, broadcasting live from the Cockpit Country. If not, this Sunday afterward. We'll let you know. We'll let our listeners know. Thanks for the invitation. Thank you so much, Chief Richard Currie. A lot to unpack, a lot to talk about. We couldn't do all of it in an hour, but hopefully we'll be able to clear up much more in the 4 hours when we come into Accompong.